you don't need God to become rich. So you don't need to do first fruit. You don't need to do tithe. You don't need to give. You don't need to do any other thing if you are not a child of God. The fact that you give does not mean you will prosper if you are not offering value. And that's why people like us are bringing balance. Money flows in exchange for goods, gifts and services, or value. If you are not offering value, what is value? Meeting needs, solving problem, answering questions. If you are not offering value, money will not flow. Because that's where the problem comes in, because everybody just becomes so religious and they don't think about things holistically. You don't need God to become rich. You can do it God's way, or you can do it the world's way, or what we call Babylon's way. So when God created the entire world, He also created humanity. And as a creator, He put principles in place for the perpetuation of His creation. Those principles has nothing to do with redemption, has nothing to do with salvation, has nothing to do with religion, has nothing to do with covenants. So whether you serve God or not, if you apply the principles that He has put in place, you will get the result that that principle provides. You don't have to be a Christian to do that. But you see, the challenge therefore will be when you say you are a child of God, you are saying that, God, I'm entering into a covenant with you. I don't want to rely on just the principles of creation because I'm your creation. I want to have a covenant with you and enjoy covenant and redemption rights. So, because when you look at an individual, so for instance, now there is a principle of respiration. There is a principle of reproduction. So the principle of respiration means that if you breathe in, you breathe out. You don't need to say, I'm born again. But now, when you now find yourself in a situation where the principle of respiration fails, then you now need a miracle. There's a principle of reproduction. When a man and a woman comes together in consensual sex as adults within the confines of marriage, there's supposed to be pregnancy. But when you do that and there's no pregnancy, you now know that that principle is not working for you. You go to hospital, you do everything, you now need something higher. That is where the place of covenant comes in. So for many people, we need to have that understanding first as a foundation. So if you don't have a covenant with God, you are not a child of God, you want to operate like a normal human being, then operate like a normal human being. But the day you say, I am coming into a relation with God, I'm entering a covenant with God, I am now a child of God, and I want to live by the covenant, you have come into the kingdom. The very minute you do that, there are different rules that govern your life. And if you are in the kingdom, and you are a covenant person, and you don't now do those things that are expected of you, that is where you are now missing it, which is where the problem comes. So most of the time, many of the people that are arguing don't even have a relation with God. They don't even have a covenant with God. So they are arguing about somebody that has a covenant with God, that has a relationship with God, and trying to confuse them about what they should do. But because those people themselves don't understand, because they are doing it because pastor said, church said, bishop said, apostle said, they don't even have understanding, then it becomes a confusing situation. When we come into the kingdom, because the kingdom is a different dynamics altogether. And many people don't understand it. When you come into the kingdom, you can be a citizen of the kingdom and be kindergarten in the kingdom. You can be a citizen of the kingdom and be a baby and be a child. And the same way it happens in the natural, because all truths are parallel. So in biology, when parents give birth to children, their children don't go to work. Their children don't cook. They don't earn an income, but they enjoy every benefit of life. They have a roof over their head without paying. They eat without paying, without working, because they are children. But when they grow up and they become an adult, they can't say they want to stay in their parents' house. They can't say they want to eat in them. They now have to start fending for themselves. So in the same way, you can be in the church and be unserious and be an immature Christian. You are part of the kingdom, but you are a baby, you are a child. And many of the things you'll be enjoying will be based on what we call the mercy of God. You'll be operating in the outer court of the kingdom. You'll be a child of God. You'll be a baby in the kingdom. You will not do what you are supposed to do, but you will still be getting the benefits because you are a baby. You will just remember that, but there now comes a time where you now grow up and you realize that this thing is no more working the way it used to work, because God is now saying it's time for you to grow up. You have done kindergarten for too long. It's time to grow up. So the best way I like to explain it to people is this. we live in Nigeria. We're all in Nigeria now. In Nigeria, we drive on a particular part of the road. In Nigeria, we spend naira. In Nigeria, we have a president. We have governors. In Nigeria, we pay rent per annum. In Nigeria, we go to primary school, secondary school, university. So we have different things that govern us. The very minute you say, okay, I'm no more living in Nigeria. I'm relocating to London. Once you leave Nigeria and land in the UK, you have entered a different kingdom. You have entered a different nation. Different laws begin to apply. You can argue with the law from today to tomorrow. You can go on social media with 200 naira airtime and be ranting till you die. That is your business. It doesn't change the reality because you got into that country. The very minute you get to the airport, bam, naira expires. You start spending pounds. I don't believe in pounds. That's your business. You don't need to believe. It's not about what you believe. It's about the reality of the new kingdom. Why are they driving on the wrong side of the road? It's not the wrong side of the road. It's the right side of the road because that's the way they drive in their own country. So you have come into a new kingdom. You now need to begin to learn the principles of that new kingdom. You can't go there and say, no. How can you tell me to pay for 1 month? No, I want to pay for 1 year. In fact, I want to pay for 3 years. I have the money. They say, sorry, we cannot collect money for 1 year. In fact, where did you get the money from? What do you do for a living? We need to investigate you. Why? Because you are now in a different kingdom. That's the same way it works. When you come into the kingdom of God, once you enter the kingdom of God, you are a citizen of the kingdom. In that kingdom, the God of the kingdom is your source. Every other thing you do is a resource. In that kingdom, everything you own does not belong to you. It belongs to that God. And that God that it belongs to now tells you that for you to show that you are part of this kingdom and you believe that everything you have belongs to me, every time you enter into a place for the first time, a level for the first time, a blessing for the first time, everything in it belongs to me. Bring it to me to acknowledge me, to say, my king, I am part of this kingdom. I am your subject. I have come to honor you, to acknowledge you, that you are the one that brought me to this realm. So you bring many of those things that people see in church. A lot of people say what they don't do. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people that grew up in church, they grew up seeing the hypocrisy of the church. They see the church preach love and walk in it. They see the church preach holiness and live in sin. They see the church preach giving and be stingy. So they've seen the hypocrisy of the church. So many of them grew up resenting the church because of the hypocrisy that they have seen. And another thing is ignorance. You don't live by miracles, you live by principles. So every time we talk about the supernatural, I like breaking it down. The supernatural is a combination of super plus natural. So when you do the super, in the world of giving and investment, there's what we call covenant obligation. Covenant obligation is spiritual investment. The spiritual investment is the foundation and the security, but the physical investment is the completion and the glory. Because the investment you do in the spiritual, you get the harvest through the investment you do in the physical. So, for instance, now, you go to work. You don't give them money in your office. You give them your time, your talent, your knowledge, your energy. At the end of the month, they don't give you more time. They don't give you more talent. They don't give you more energy. What do? They monetize it and give you money. So at the end of the month, they give you money that they consider that is commensurate to what you have given, depending on the salary scale and a lot of other factors. So in order for you to have more income, even though you are collecting that money, you are tithing, you are doing forceful, it doesn't mean you will now become a billionaire. No. You now have to have wisdom, financial intelligence to now know what to do with that salary to now offer more solution and increase. So many people, that is the second is they are ignorant and they think that, by just giving I'll just prosper. And when they give and give and give and give and give and they don't prosper, they now realize that, wow, something is wrong. Because for a lot of people, we've had a lot of teachings that have not given people balance. And some of the teachings, when you teach, because the Bible is based on, a particular tribe, a particular race, a particular geography, a particular era. So majority of the people in the Bible days were farmers. So when they are talking about giving and receiving in Bible days, they are talking with reference to fruits. Yeah. So when you say things like, what you sow is what you reap. From the point of agric, when you sow banana, you reap banana. But now when you say what you sow is what you reap, and you now think that because you sow money, you will reap money. Not necessarily so. Because when you went to work, it's not money you sowed, but you reap money. So when you say what you reap is what you sow, And you say if you sow 10 naira, you reap 10 naira. You sow 15 naira, you reap 15 naira. If you give a million, you reap a million. You are not actually accurate. Because sometimes when you are given, the harvest does not come in monetary terms. So because of those dimensions of ignorance, a lot of people, because they have not been well taught, because they are now giving money, they have never been sick. They don't see it as an harvest. So you see a lot of people in church today, 15 years, they have never gone to hospital. 20 years, they have never gone to hospital. But because they are not having money, they say they are poor people. But you have never been sick. But if you were sick, you would have been having maybe 2 million to be paying hospital. But now you are not sick, you don't see it as an harvest. A lot of those people that say that my parents, those people, they are intelligent. They went to school, they graduated. Intelligent people. They didn't see it as, well, there are people that went to school, they don't even have enough brain. They will sit in the best school in the world, they will still fail. So there are a lot of things that, when you give, giving blesses you with things that money cannot buy. So the real harvest in the kingdom is not monetary harvest. Monetary harvest is the elementary in the kingdom. That's why you see today now, a lot of people, if you are now poor, they will consider that you are not good, because for you to be poor, you must be a sinner, you must be unholy, you must be lazy. So you see all kinds of funny teachings going on like that. Why? Because so when you are now rich, you are now a good person. God is blessing you. So you now see a lot of people in church today now, Ronsgare, Yahoo boys, all kinds of people, but they are like, these are rich people. God is blessing them. It's the sign of the favor of God. These are all as a result of the lack of balance in the teachings, because we have more preachers and few teachers. And you see, only teaching can disciple. Preaching does not disciple people. That's why we have a lot of people that are not discipled. You see, preaching will inspire, we challenge, we motivate, we steer you up, but only teaching disciples you. Because teaching will give you precept upon precept, line upon line. So that's the second reason. And then the third reason is lack of consistency. Most of the people that they have seen, they say, my father did, was he consistent? Sometimes they do things haphazardly. And when you do things, you see, in this kingdom, it's not an emotional kingdom. It's a principled kingdom. So in this kingdom, if you do something consistently, you will get the result. If you do it today, tomorrow, next tomorrow, then later you stop, you have broken the cycle, you start all over again. It's not that I'm back. No. You start all over again. Yeah. You see, when you talk about the tithe is the first 10 of every increase or income in your life. And it's not a debt you owe, it's a seed you sow as an act of worship in acknowledgement of the fact that God is your source. And I'd like to take us back to Genesis again, where the first place where tithing was mentioned. There was no pastor that told Abraham to tithe. There was no church that was preaching tithing or saying you must bring this tithe. If you don't bring this, no, there was nothing like that. Abraham came from a background of idol worship. He came from a background where he knew, by virtue of his upbringing in the realm of idol worshiping, that if you want to go before a great man, you don't go empty-handed. If you want to go before the oracle, you must bring something to the oracle. Then Abraham had an encounter with God. And when he had an encounter with God, he acknowledged the fact that God was beyond every altar, beyond every oracle, beyond any other God he has ever seen. And then one day, he had a problem. The enemy came against him, and he could not win the battle. But it took 318 people that he raised in his own house, and they went to that battle and they won. And when he won the battle, he realized that, wow, this is not ordinary. This is supernatural. There is a power that backed me up that made this to happen. Then he brought the tithe of everything. I said, look, I will go and honor this, my God, because these results that I got is supernatural. It's not by power, it's not by my God. So he now brought the tithe and said, I am giving this tenth as an act of worship. Number one, to acknowledge I didn't win this battle by myself. He helped me, and I'm doing this. And that's where the first place where tithe was mentioned. So according to, in biblical exegesis is the careful systematic study of the word of God to discover the original intended meaning so as to rightly apply for the now. So when you want to understand anything in the Bible, you go to the very first place where it was mentioned. So the first place where tithing was mentioned was right there in Genesis 14. And it was not because somebody asked for it, it's because somebody brought it as an acknowledgement of the fact that God is his source. So that's where tithing comes from. And he gave it to the God that he believed gave him victory. So let's now bring it into, so later on, he now taught his children about tithing, taught his people. And don't forget, like I've always said, Abraham had Sarah, Hagar, and then married another woman called Keturah. And he taught all of them kingdom principles. When Abraham's wife, Sarah, died, Sarah was buried. Then Abraham gave all his other children, he gave them gifts and handed over the blessing to Isaac. All those other women, especially the wife of the children of Keturah, they all moved on, and they were the one that continued in that lineage of covenants. So they continued the covenants. While the other people that were the prominent ones that the Bible was talking about, Esau and Jacob, and all, the Bible was showing about the children of Keturah that went on, continued in that. They were the same people that became, you remember, by the time you now got to the place, by the time we see them again, we only saw them again when Moses went to the house of, when he left Egypt and met Jethro. And Jethro was a priest. Don't forget that the Bible didn't talk about anything priesthood though. Because the children of Keturah went and created that lineage. Then by the time they would meet them, they say, oh, Jethro. And Jethro was now telling Moses, no, you people have missed it. This is the way you should do this way. So that's when they were bringing them back. So by the time they have gone off key like that, they have gone off the covenant, they have forgotten all the things their father taught them. So they now needed to come back into the covenant. And that's where Moses now made it a law. That's where it became a law. So it was never a law. It's not a law. It came before the law. But now they now say, okay, for now, let's make it a law. From now, all of you must pay this, must pay that. So that's why, that's the same way where taxation came from. Yes. Then I say, okay, everybody must pay tax. So when you come into the kingdom, and you are part of a kingdom, everybody that is a citizen of that kingdom has a responsibility to play their part to ensure that that kingdom is established. So in a church now, a church is an organism and an organization. So where you are part of the organization, the same way you are part of a country and you pay your taxes, when you are part of a church, it is your responsibility to give and bring your own portion to ensure that that house is taken care of, because your tithe is supposed to be what they will use to pay salaries, take care of the church, because we need money to run the church. But because people are not taught all these things, they get into it. So now, if you buy fuel in a fuel station, will you go and pay in the restaurant? No. Where you buy fuel is where you pay. If you eat in a restaurant, will you go and pay in a restaurant? No, where you eat is where you pay. So when you come to a church, it's that church where they feed you. You do naming ceremony, you do birthday, you do burial, they do your wedding, they teach you, they give you communion, they pray for you. That's where you eat. That's where you pay. And then the same way you have house rent, school fees, fuel, telephone bill, money for food, these are all different expenses. That's the same way you have tithe, offering, first fruits, welfare, given to the less privileged. So you cannot carry your house rent and go and use it to buy airtime. You can't carry tithe to say you want to give to the less privileged. That's another covenant obligation. So you must still do that one, but not with the tithe. You can't carry the money of less privilege and say you want to go and use it to take care of your parents. No. Every of the window in covenant obligation has a benefit it gives to you. But if you are not part of the kingdom and you are not well taught, you will not understand it. And especially when people are poor, there's too much confusion. That is more of a poverty thing than, because rich people, whether you are born again, unbeliever, atheist, every rich person gives. Because they know you cannot give in his life. And if you notice, all the people arguing about tithe and offering, they don't argue about giving. No. Everybody say, give to the poor, because it's poverty that is the software. Give to the poor, give to the poor, give to the poor, give to the poor. The poor will always be there. The solution to poverty is not giving to the poor. It's giving them knowledge and information that will help them to come out of poverty.